Hello and welcome to this video, and on this video I'm going to be going track by track through Led Zeppelin's third album, which is called unimaginatively Led Zeppelin III. And you might be asking yourself, why am I looking at this wood? Where are you, Andy? I can't even see you. I am out in the lovely English countryside, and I'm standing here gazing out over that forest. I don't feel too well today, I've got a bit of a cold, but I feel much better to coming out and breathing this fresh air in and seeing this beautiful view. All right, so the reason I'm doing this is because this album comes out of this aesthetic. This aesthetic bursts onto Led Zeppelin III and it floods every pore. We're going to be going through the story of Robert and Jimmy Page going out to Bron-Y-Aur in North Wales. We're going to be going to the fact that they went roaming around the country together, bonding, writing songs together. And on that album there is a tune called Bron-Y-Aur Stomp. And that was also done as a heavier version, didn't actually make the album and wasn't released to many years later, called Jennings Farm. Jennings Farm Blues, is it called? You see, now I'm here, I've forgotten. I'll tell you all that when I'm sat down and I've got my head together. I am literally in the vicinity of Jennings Farm. This for me is Led Zepp country. I'm not going to tell you where. I don't want to flood it with horrible, nosy Led Zeppelin fans coming and stomping around here. But let's go down into the vicinity of Jennings Farm. Led Zeppelin in the end are English gentlemen. I aspire to be an English gentleman as well, as you know. In the early 70s, when this album was being made, Robert actually lived, or shall we say the Plant family actually lived in a place called Jennings Farm. Robert would have strided across these little lanes and alleyways and little walkways with his dog Strider. And Bron-Y-Aur Stomp is actually a love story to his dog. And I think that's one of the things that's interesting about this album. If you look at the lyrical content of the first albums, you feel that Robert is treading water a little bit. And as we drive through, if you poke out the windows, I'm not going to show you it. I'm going to leave this some mystery, but we are right in the vicinity now. In fact, I'm looking at it right now. In front of me is Jennings Farm. Or is it that one up there? I have been to it once, believe it or not. I have been to Jennings Farm. I've stepped into the grounds of it. And now I'm here. I can't actually remember where it is, but I'm pretty sure that's where I'm looking now, yes. So we are here in Led Zeppelin country. It's beautiful, isn't it? You can't see it, you're not going to see it. I am now in a local village, very famous. This is right in the heart of Led Zeppelin country, and I'm parking up in a pub car park. Again, I'm not going to show you the pub. It's not right. I don't feel it's right. But that pub has gone down in sort of Led Zeppelin folklore, because that pub, as many pubs used to have in the old days, they had a thing called an outdoor, and an outdoor was where you could nip down to the outdoor and you could buy some beer without going into the pub, take it home. That's what the outdoor is. But the thing is, with the pub, which this car park belongs to, which I'm sat in right now, the only way to get into that pub was through the outdoor. That's the only way in. We're literally there. I could see it now, but you can't see it. I'm not going to let you see it. I could be making this all up. That's the great thing about mysteries, isn't it? I could be making this all up. Yes, so, yeah, how do you get into that pub? In through the outdoor, that's the only way. Well, you can see the backside of the pub now. But this whole area is built upon sandstone. And if I just swizzle around here, it doesn't take too far to find these areas where the sandstone has been carved out. And they've been used for storage. But in certain places in this area, right, these little rooms are actually houses. And people lived in these right up into the 1960s. And just up the road from here, they've actually conserved one. So this is the bizarre, magical place, I think, that inspires the sort of aesthetic that we have in Led Zeppelin III. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down somewhere here, somewhere nice, and I'm going to go through it track by track. So this looks like a nice place to have a look at this album. Do you want to see where we're about to sit? I'll just show you around, just so you can get a feel. There we go. Isn't that pretty? So, 1970. Led Zeppelin has been formed for about 18 months. It's been a whirlwind. They've been touring like crazy. In 1970, they come off tour and they need a break. Robert Plant's family holiday home is a little cottage outside of Machynlleth in North Wales called Bron-Y-Aur. There's no running water there. There's no electricity. Him and Jimmy Page turn up there. I think Jimmy Page got his girlfriend there with him. Robert's got Maureen there, and they got a couple of roadies with them. They weren't there on their own. I've always pictured it's just them two on their own, you know. But no, they had quite a few people there. And they start to write together, and this is where the songwriting bond between Page and Plant, it was there from the first, but it becomes more solid. And what happens if you look at this album up close, you start to see that the lyrical content is a little bit wider. And also, of course, we have this revolution in their sound. This is where Led Zeppelin go from a very competent and bombastic electric blues band with folk influences to a band that's got absolutely their own sound. So as we start to look at this album, we have to bear in mind how it was made and what it's about. The man coming past with the dog, I'll let him pass because he'll probably talk to me. Morning. Hello, young dog. You got to see if I'm all right. Come on. Once the initial writing sessions had happened, they then moved out to Headley Grange. I think it's the first time they went there. This was a big sort of decrepit manor house. And they brought the Rolling Stone mobile there, and they met up with John Bonham and John Paul Jones, and they started recording this track. It was then taken to, I think, Olympic Studios and another studio in London, can't remember. They finished it off, and then they were back out on tour, and it was actually mixed in Memphis, which I think it was very surprising that this album, in the way it sounds, was mixed in Memphis. Andy Johns was on the engineering course. Jimmy Page produced it, and I think there was a guy called Tony Manning, was it? Another guy that had come in to engineer this album. So where do we start? Well, we have to start with Immigrant Song, don't we? Which I believe, if you see Led Zeppelin as being this sort of the prototype of the bombastic heavy band, right? But we know that there's so much more to them than that. And here on Led Zeppelin III is where we see that really played out. But I believe that Immigrant Song is the most bombastic, successful, heavy rock song that Zeppelin ever did. At the time, I think when I was growing up, even in the early 80s, the album that we would have sorry, the song that we would have pointed to would have been Whole Lot of Love. That was the song. Of course, it had been used at the top of the Pops theme, so everybody knew that riff. But as time's gone on, Immigrant Song has risen up to being one of the most important heavy songs in the Zepp catalogue. And what's interesting as well is that we really see this songwriting approach emerging. So rather than Jimmy Page just, grunting and groaning about his feelings of love towards someone, on this, it's something completely different. He's now a Viking at the head of a ship, going out to rape and plunder. Of course, this tune was inspired by their trip to Iceland. And if you get the Led Zeppelin DVD, there is a little bit of footage of the mountain island. So it's as though they're widening their aesthetic. This is why I decided to come out into the countryside and widen mine. Immigrant Song is top 3 Led Zeppelin songs for me. It's their best of the heavy songs for me. This is 10 out of 10 as far as I'm concerned. All right, let's have a look at this actual album here. I've got the special edition vinyl here, lovely thing there. This was designed by a guy called, I think it was called Zacron, wasn't he? And here it's actually we've got a triple opening outer. It's a double album, but it opens out like that, beautifully organised. And it's famous for having this rotating thing going on here. So the album can be infinitely different to everybody. Everyone can have their own personal version of Led Zeppelin 3. So if I get the track list out here. So yes, Immigrant Song, Page and Plant. This is 2 minutes 26. It's like listening to an old rock and roll song. It's mighty, but it's so short, right? Then we go into a track called Friends. Friends is, I think Page was really exploring guitarists like John Fahey, obviously Bert Jansch, Davy Graham, and he's getting into these odd tunings. And Friends, I believe, is in a very, very odd tuning. I think it's tuned to a C major chord, and it's got a 6 added to it, which gives it a Mixolydian sound. So it has quite an Indian sounding vibe to it. This track for me is the point where Led Zeppelin go up to being one of the greatest bands in the world. There is nobody on the planet that has written a song like this. This has its own world, its own vibe. I absolutely love it so much. It sounds Indian, it sounds like English folk music, it's hypnotic, it's absolutely wonderful. Of course, they also then took this and the tune 4 Sticks and re-recorded it with the Bombay String Orchestra. But this has got strings on as well, and those strings have been arranged by John Paul Jones. What a musical beast to be able to sit down and pull that off, because I wouldn't know how to arrange strings anyway. I could have a good go, but John Paul Jones is in full command and is able to write into his arrangements all this swooping that gives it such a unique sound. This for me is Led Zeppelin ascending up to being not just a great heavy rock band, bombastic, electrifying, exciting, which is what we've had on the first 2 albums, but this is now sublime for me. It's a 10 out of 10, incredible track. And this segues into the 3rd track on the album, which is called Celebration Day. Now this one's famous because it started off with a guitar riff and a drum beat, but one engineer, I don't know who it was, accidentally erased the drum beat off, so they ruined the beginning of the track. There's a Moog synthesizer on Friends, and so they extended that note out and then dropped it down and then brought this guitar in, and then they put this like backwards reverb on where the tape had started up when they suddenly realised, they think, oh my god, we're recording, and they suddenly just randomly hit it. So this random and the track kicks in. And this one, everyone says that this album doesn't rock like the other albums. It's not true. It's just Led Zeppelin redefining what rock is at this point. This is a heavy tune, but it's a heavy tune, but it's also like an acoustic-y folk tune at the same time. The choruses are brilliant, the songwriting's brilliant. It's not just Robert going, oh baby, baby, it's not all of that. And so, again, this is 10 out of 10. These first 3 songs are 10 out of 10. We've never had this on an album like this. This is, for me, is an upgrade from the first 2 albums. And then we go into Since I've Been Loving You. Now, Led Zeppelin would often put on their albums, around about this point, they drop down And very often they could go into a sort of slow 6/8 blues. And I got to be honest, they're reworkings, they're bombastic reworkings of I can't quit your baby and you shook me all night long and all that stuff. I do find a little bit trapped in time, if you know what I mean. It's trapped in time. And I'll often listen to Led Zeppelin do it, then I'll skip back to the original that was recorded in 1935 or something. You just go, oh my God, listen to that. Whereas with this is the first time Zeppelin take the blues and they push it to a point where they own it. Now, part of this is that this isn't really a blues. The chord progression's all over the place. It twists and turns, and it's got something else in it. And what it is, it's that English aesthetic. It's also credited to John Paul Jones, this one. And I think that's because of the incredible Hammond organ. Put your ears in. I always wonder whether there's a bass on this track. I'm not too sure whether this or whether he's done it on the Hammond organ. If this is organ, guitar and drums, it's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. I used to play in a blues band with a guy called Ian Parker, and when we forgot what we were trying to bloody do in that band, we would often sit down and listen to this, and we would just like gasp and go, oh my God. Jimmy Page's guitar solos is brilliant. This is 10 out of 10. This is their best ever blues. It's one of the greatest blues ever recorded by a non-black proper blues person. Right, then we go into Out on the Tiles. Now, for many years, if you were asked me what my favourite Led Zeppelin tune is, I would have said Out on the Tiles. This is written by Bonham, not just the drum parts, but also the guitarists and everything. Bonham came up with this. And so it's very rhythmic, intricate, but it's got such a sing-along chorus. The vocal arrangement's incredible. You've got Robert's sped-up vocals in this. It sounds amazing. I often wonder whether this sped-up vocals is happening because he was starting, you know, I mean, because he's such a young man in the early days, and we change us men as we get older, and I wonder whether his voice is dropping down a little bit, so they start to use, you know, the vary speed to try and get his vocals up there. They do it a lot on the Houses of the Holy, don't they? Side one. So I gotta say, I was gonna give Out on the Tiles a 9, but just for, I mean, I love John Bonham. This is Bonham peak. This is peak Bonham, if not the peak Bonham. The drumming is incredible, absolutely incredible. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. So here, for the first time on my, you know, Led Zeppelin track by track videos, I've got to a point where this whole side is 10 out of 10, isn't it? Right, so we flip it over, and here it's like they now are going to stir the pot even more. It's going to get even weirder, right? And I'm not too sure how well this hangs together. We have Gallows Pole, which opens up, which is a very old folk song, which actually emerged here, probably up the road from here, probably not, though, I don't know. But it tells a tale, you know, trapped in the ancient mystical history of this country, of some woman wanting, that she's on the gallows pole about to be hung. She's waiting for her father to come with some gold. When the father turns up with the gold, he hasn't got the gold, and she says, have you got any silver, have you got any gold? He says no, and he says, I've only come here to watch you hang. It's one of those British dark folk poems. Lead Belly did a very famous recording of it in 1939. It's incredible. His guitar playing is incredible. Listen to Lead Belly's guitar playing, a virtuoso. His voice is incredible. Lead Belly is incredible. And Lead Belly echoes across 20th century music in such a profound way. And we see it cropping up here. This arrangement comes from another folk artist who was a contemporary of like Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger. Can't remember his name. Something Rob Gurak. I can't remember. Sorry. This I do like. It's really good. But it's not one of my favourites. I think on this side, I miss Bonham. It's like Bonham's just not really on side 2 of this album. He's doing a lot, and he's doing stuff on here, but I'm not too sure about it, to be honest. So Gallows Pole, I would put, because it's a real classic, and they came back to it over and over again. How are we going to score this? I'd have to score this as an 8 I would say, me personally. It's my bloody channel, so it's going to have to be an 8. Then we go into Tangerine. Tangerine is like almost like a prototype for Stairway to Heaven, I think. This is entirely written by Jimmy Page. Those are his lyrics as well. He wrote this right back when he was still in the Yardbirds in 1968. It's very simply done. It's very beautiful. I would put this as a 9 out of 10 Tangerine. It's followed up by That's the Way, which I think is my favourite tune on side 2 here. Absolutely wonderful. And this really shows this new songwriting prowess that has now emerged from their trip out to North Wales. And you have to remember, people often go, well, they went to Bron-Y-Aur and then they came out and they did Led Zeppelin III. No, there's only a few tunes that actually come from those sessions. Those sessions are now going to appear all the way up to, well, Physical Graffiti and even beyond. This was much more a shift in, I would say, it's almost like an emotional depth. That's the Way is a wonderful tune. I wouldn't put it up there in the sort of 10 out of 10. I would say 9 out of 10 there. Then we have this arrangement of Bron-Y-Aur Stomp. I've never been too sure about this one either. This seems like almost, Led Zeppelin can sometimes get hokey, and maybe on a Led Zeppelin you have to have that hokey song. You have to have Hot Dog. You have to have the crunge, right? They haven't really done hokey up until this point, have they? But this track album ends with 2 hokey tunes. Maybe one would have been okay, but if we'd have had a real stormer at the end, I think this would undeniably be their greatest album. But Bron-Y-Aur Stomp comes out. It's a reworking of like a Book of White tune, as I said before. What I find interesting is you've got John Paul Jones on double bass. If you look at what John Paul Jones is doing on this, he's playing, I'd love to know the actual number of instruments he plays on this album. His role as the arranger and go-to guy for musical colour has just gone through the roof here, hasn't it? Whereas here we see John Bonham sort of not quite knowing what to do, and on this one he actually goes out into the kitchen in Headley Grange and grab some spoons. But there's something I like about John Bonham being able to play the spoons, because the fact that John Bonham can play the spoons is what I think makes him different from Bernard Purdie. I don't think Bernard Purdie can play the spoons. If you want to know what the spoons is that in English music there is a stream of English music called Cockney music, and you have the Pearly Kings, and they get up, and rather than having a drum kit, all you have to do is get a pair of spoons, and then you can bang it off various parts of your body. And it's like the British relation, and maybe the precursor to that ham bone thing. So maybe Purdie could do it. Maybe that ham bone thing, which is where the drum kit evolves in jazz and blues. It's basically musicians would play their own body, and it's a bit like playing your own body, but with some spoons. And Bonham is playing the spoons on there. I'm not too sure about this. I don't want to give it a bad mark. I had to listen to it this morning, and Jimmy Page's picking on this is so virtuoso. You really see what a monster player he is when you hear that type of thing. I'd have to put this as a 7. And then we have this sort of, it's like a blues pastiche, really. I can't remember what this is a reworking of now. Maybe this is the Book of White one. I think this is the Book of White reworking. I've got a bit confused now. That's the way it is. It's because I'm out in the beautiful English countryside. I'm not quite focused. I'm a bit groggy today. Hats off to Roy Harper. It's like this sort of, it's a little bit like the beginning of, I'm having a total blank here. I'm having a total blank now. It is what it is, Andy. You're trying your best. It is what it is. Oh, it's lovely out here. Does it really matter? In the end, Does it really matter that at the end of this album there's 2 tracks that are a bit strange? Surely that's right. Surely that's the way this album should end. Why am I trying to pick on it for? Why am I trying to add anything to it for? It's interesting, isn't it? If I was sat in my studio now, it'd all be in control. I'd be in Andy world, but I'm not here. Interesting. Yeah, I lost my way a little bit at the end of this video. I'm going to keep it all in though. I think it has to be in. You have to record what's going on. People wonder what the hell's happening, and what's happening is that I have a stressful life like you have a stressful life, and because of this video I decided to trek out to this neck of the woods, which I've always associated with Led Zeppelin country. The amount of times I've been around on this car park with Robert so many times. And so I'm walking in that spot, and as I'm trying to do my magic, you know, my YouTube magic, and having all these facts at my behest, I just sort of bloody forgetting about it all. And the reason is because as soon as you walk out into this, it starts to affect you, right? And it's like English Zen. It's the birds. You've had a right treat here. If I wasn't talking, it'd be so much better. So my basic point is that this here created that. Should we go for a walk? There's a pathway up there, and I've never been down it. Do you want to have a walk down the pathway? Shall we see what's out and about? And this video is going to be what it is. It will be what it will be. So what I want you to do, I want you to imagine you're Robert Plant and Jimmy Page. You're 22, 23 years old, a little bit older for Jimmy. I'm gonna have to shut my car off. I'm gonna walk away and leave it open. But we don't live in a world like that. We've always got to worry, and that's the thing, isn't it? And although they didn't trek off for this neck of the woods, it was this sort of aesthetic that informs this album. So, do you want to go for a walk? And we will finish off with having a walk down this path. I'm not going to say anything. You can just sit there and relax and imagine that you're Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, or Roger Planet, and you're waiting for that inspiration to arise. I want you to tell me in the comments whether you felt it, So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out my Patreon and all the other stuff, and let's go delving deep into this forest. Such a huge force in the world over those 2 years. They're living this incredible existence. But things like songwriting, things like the integration between, oh my God, he's coming down a bit fast, isn't he? What are we supposed to do now? And that car's up behind me, so I'm stuck now. Oh, he's reversing up. I'll have to cut all this bit out. Oh my God. Bloody hell. It's all right driving into the English countryside, isn't it, and appreciating it all, but then there's these great big hulking 4x4s, because all these bloody little farms now are now owned by bloody the rich and wealthy, aren't they, with their big bloody fuel guzzlers driving around, and all these little, oh, here comes another one. You know, I came out here for a bit of relaxation. A1 drain and jetting. They're all having to come up here, haven't they? Because they can't live in a normal bloody house. They have to have their bloody, all their crap removed by a tube. They have to have this put in, that put in. And of course, they've all got loads of money. So that's where tradesmen make their money, is in a place like this. You know, so that's why there's that ever ongoing tirade of bloody tradesmen up to these great massive houses to service these rich people, just so they can step out their door with their dogs and have a bloody walk around, you know, thinking up songs for Led Zeppelin. Not that they can. Oh my God, another one! What is going on? What the hell is going on? This is bonkers. We just, I mean, there's, oh, what a lot of bloody nonsense, eh? Oh God. So yeah, I've stuck this on the end of the video. It's like an outtake of me getting bloody frustrated, just in case you thought I'm out in the countryside being all, you know, rustic and windswept, and I'm not. I'm actually a very frustrated man driving around his car, you know, jealous of all these bloody rich people who live in this lovely place when I can't live in this place like this, you know, and driving around getting frustrated because life is just never ever easy, is it? It's always a fight, isn't it? A bloody fight.